for joining me again. My name is Carlos Garrido. This is Tu Esquina Filosófica, your philosophical corner. The topic of today is a topic that has been omitted quite a bit in the history of philosophy. To just play with the first sentence of the 18th Brumaire from Karl Marx. It's a topic which many have treated as a tragedy in the sense that its passionate effect impedes and restricts our capacity to be rational. Others have treated it as a farce in the sense that it's really just a mystified representation of the real physicalist structures of domination and power at play in relationships and sex. As you can tell from the title, or induce from the first few sentences I have just said, the topic of today is love, and specifically love, how it is presented in Alain Badiou's text In Praise of Love, which comes from an interview he had. So I think a good way to represent his notion of love, before I dig deeper into it, is that love is used as an instrumental radical tool. So I'm going to read just a quick sentence. In today's world, it is generally thought that individuals only pursue their own self-interest. Love is an antidote to that, provided it isn't conceived only as an exchange of mutual favors, or isn't calculated in a calculated way in advance as a profitable investment. Love really is a unique trust placed in chance. It takes us into key areas of experience of what is different, and essentially leads to the idea that you can experience the world from the perspective of difference. In this respect, it has universal implications. It is an individual experience of a potential universality, and thus central to philosophy, as Plato first intuited. So, one of Plato's intuition was that love is an impulse towards the ideas, so towards the form, towards the really real. And this is the structure that love, as it is presented by Alain Badiou, contains. It is a tool which not only breaks through the everydayness of modern capitalist society and its ideological individualist structures, but it is also objectively and universally a strive for a certain kind of truth. So he starts by going through a new dating site in France, I believe, which presents love as a risk-free exchange. So here we have, of course, the market logic of capitalism at play. Love is here presented. You put in your information and you match with someone else, and they guarantee you that there's not going to be any risk in getting hurt or anything like that. So he gives the analogy of zero-death war, which is the concept that you can have war with zero deaths. And what he finds is that there is never zero-death war, just like there is never zero-risk love. That, or at least in its totality, that it's always zero-death war for one part of the equation and zero-risk love for one part of the equation. So we have zero-death war for the American imperialist side, but that is not the case with the people who we drop bombs on in the Middle East or wherever else. So in the same way that love, zero risk love, is only zero risk love for those who can detach themselves emotionally from encounters, right? It's not zero risk love for those who get attached quick and end up getting hurt. So he rejects this sort of zero risk approach because he sees that the element of chance, the element of risk, is absolutely essential in the foundation of the essence of what love is. And this element of chance is what he defines as the encounter. The encounter is the first event in which the possibility of love can be manifested, right? So you're going to a coffee shop, you sit down, and a beautiful lady or man sits next to you, and you begin to talk, and that becomes an encounter, and that creates the possibility for something else, for actual flourishing love. That encounter in the process of love, which is a long and arduous process, with many points, things which I will refer to in a little bit, that encounter initially appears as a chance, a spontaneous, contingent event. Event, of course, which is one of the philosophical jargons that he has, which means a radical break through the everydayness of life. So this encounter is an event, but an event connected to the development of love. So in this event, what happens is that the question of love appears, the potential appears, and it's answered by both parts to see if they want to fulfill it and take a part in it. What this leads to is the beginning of the development of love. What he sees as love is a radical break through the individualistic, monadic everydayness of capitalist society, in which, for the purposes not just of expansion of capital, but also for ideological purposes, having people be separated into singularities is beneficial, right? If each household is just occupying a few people instead of big families, you have to buy twice as many TVs and twice as many things, so it multiplies. Kind of the Brave New World sort of logic. And ideologically, if you have people believing that they're individuals separate from the group, they're alienated from what someone like Marx would consider the species being, and then the essential connection of man to man. But this is the everydayness in which we exist. So what love does, love represents an event, specifically an encounter, because it breaks through this, or it creates the potentiality to break through this and develop what he calls the two scene. The two scene is when two ones, essentially two monadic individuals, as presented in capitalist everydayness, when they come together and become a two-scene whole. So now the perspective goes from being an individual or an individualistic to a perspective, as I said in the quote, a perspective of difference, a perspective of the two. This reminded me very much of a quote from the Cuban folk singer Silvio Rodriguez, from a song called Te Conozco, I Know You, which says that todo se vuelve a inventar si lo comparto contigo. Everything reinvents itself once I share it with you. So once you become that two scene, once love begins to really flourish, everything reinvents itself. Everything is seen not from the perspective of the one, but from the perspective of the two. A whole new world opens up. A whole new possibility for truth opens up. So then we're back to Plato. But within this development of love, it's not just an encounter, an initial event, and boom, that's it, that's love. He sees love as like I said, an arduous struggle. It's something tough, which it's a process. It's a long process, which is hard. And what makes it hard are events which he calls points, right? Points are points or events, specific situations in which that first question that was presented in the encounter, the question of the possibility and whether the possibility of love wants to be taken on, it restates itself, of course, in a higher form, in in a deeper level, but it reinstates itself. And one of the good examples of a point is the question that they ask him of the child. There was another philosopher who said that yes, kind of accepted his thesis that yes, you create a two scene when the two individuals come together, but the ultimate purpose is in the procreation, and that goes back to the one. So the ultimate purpose is the one when you have a child. He presents the child as a point, right? It is a point in which that first encounter gets reinstated at a higher level, of course, in which that radical decision to accept the two scene, to accept a new perspective to the world, a new truth gets presented again, right? So in the process of love, there are various points, and these points are really the challenges that relationships face, in which it's constantly having to re-access the I love you. It is constantly having to reinstate the conditions for in the sense of the acceptance of the love and of the route of the two scene. So he goes on into the book to talk about his love for theater and the relationship of love and politics as distant but similar. But I think the essence of what I wanted to get to today was how love is used as a radical tool that breaks through the everydayness of individualist capitalist culture. And the way it does it is by, through an encounter, creating a two scene, right? A whole new world perspective aimed at unveiling some sort of truth related to love. And it is an encounter that is not just momentarily and that's it. It is procedural, it is hard, it is long, and it is in essence the coming together of two individual parts in one, but it's still two, and it opens up a new perspective, a perspective from the point of view of difference. And it is the acceptance of the other, not in the same way as Levinas portrays it. It's not just the experience of the other. It is the coming together of two and the perception of the world separate from just purely individualistic, my benefit, me. Now it's a new perspective, a perspective of difference, of struggle. And what that does to that initial encounter, which seemed spontaneous by chance, and in a way it probably was, what it does is that it goes from being a contingent event to a necessary event. You start dating, you're like, oh, and you get home after your coffee shop and you're telling your friend, oh, I met this cool girl, what are the odds? Then months pass, and now you're with this girl, and you're like, it's destiny. We were meant to be together, and we all know this in our everyday life. So that's another really a seal of love, which is when that initial encounter transcends from being a mere chance encounter, a chance event, something spontaneous and contingent, to something necessary, to a part of the destiny of yourself as a totality. So I recommend all of you to read it. It's a really short read. It's very poetic. I have not done it justice at all. This man is one of the most poetic philosophy writers I have ever encountered. Yeah, give it a read. It's you can probably get it done in a couple hours. But if you're interested in Badiou, I also have another video on Badiou and a conversation with Shisha called Philosophy in the Present, where they assess the role of philosophy nowadays. It's a very interesting text, again, one based on a lecture, a conversation. So thank you for joining me on this video. Signing out. Take care, stay safe with the quarantine, and and everything going on, this is the perfect time to be doing reading and writing and stuff. So thank you for watching this video. Please let me know if you partially agree or fully agree or disagree. Well, disagree is inherently in the statement partially agree, because that means that there was another part that wasn't agreed to. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts, if there's any other videos you recommend, any other philosopher on the topic of love you would recommend. If you're interested in other extremes, he presents Schopenhauer as the extreme of hate towards love. He hates women for being so passionate about love that they end up recreating this pretty shitty species, you know, Schopenhauer. I also have a video on him, on the world as one idea, that you should check out. Or Kierkegaard, who has the 3 stages: the aesthetic, the ethical, and the religious. And that religious is the ultimate seal of love, going from just loosey-goosey in the aesthetic to structured and dedicated in the ethical, to structured, dedicated, and married in the religious. That's the leap, essentially. So yeah, let me know if there's anything else you guys would like to know, and yeah, share it if you can. Thank you.